Okay, you guys want to know a funny story about this microphone? The last time I used it, like attached to my shirt, I pulled it off without thinking about the magnet that's holding it on, and the magnet vanished into the ether, all right? Like I could not find it. I shook out my clothes, I couldn't find it. I looked all over the floor, couldn't find it. And then it was later that night I was getting undressed, I found it attached to my bra on the underwire. And I had just been carrying it around for hours. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The Beleaguered Authors one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today we're doing something a little bit fun. I have seen this idea going around the AuthorTube space, and I decided I was going to partake as well, and that is I'm going to be looking back on an older project. Now, unfortunately, I don't have anything super duper old. The divorce and moving and my penchant to write longhand and then subsequently losing those notebooks means that the oldest project that I have in completion is the project that I started back in 2018 and finished in 2019. I subsequently realized as I embarked on the second draft that it was just so fundamentally broken as a plot. It needed major revisions that I at that time was not prepared to undertake, and it has been on the shelf ever since. It also marked the last time up until earlier this year when I finished the first draft of Secrets of Empyrean that I had completed a first draft. So it is very near and dear to my heart, even with all of its flaws. And today I thought we would revisit that project by reading through my first chapter. Now, that being said, my first chapter is very long. I am very long-winded. It's 3,000 words. So if we don't get all the way through it, that's okay. We're just going to read through it, and we're just going to kind of revisit the writer that I was in 2018, 2019, undertaking my first very serious writing project in years. This comes from a story that I had codenamed Border Towns. It is a secondary world fantasy about a woman who works in service to her god. And her god is part of a pantheon of living gods that live as titans on this planet, this world. They are massive beings, huge, stories high, but they're also completely immobile. They're like rooted into the ground, so they cannot move. And so what these gods have done is that they have ordained people to act as their avatar within the wider world. And our main character, Lima, is an avatar for the Titan of Stone. And the country that the Titan of Stone rules over has been at war with their neighbor, who is ruled by the Titan of Gold for hundreds of years. And over time, that war has just sort of kind of trickled out and not really been fought with any seriousness, except on occasion, the gold side will send raiders across the border to raid the border towns. As a result of this, the main character, Lima's mother, who was the previous emissary or avatar, was gravely injured and thrust Lima into her position prematurely. And now Lima has been tasked with figuring out if there's a way to broker peace when the Titan of Gold has been pretty adamant that there will not be peace, or figure out if it's worth it to just do a full-fledged assault and counter his skirmishes with an actual force to bear, knowing that that will cause suffering to innocents who really don't care about the war on either side. So that's kind of the main thrust of the plot, and without further ado, let's read this first chapter together. Gaudy isn't a strong enough word to describe the room. Frankly, Lima isn't sure there is a word strong enough. Blinding, glittering gold adorns every possible surface, from the ornamental displays to the very smallest fixtures. Even the walls are plated with the stuff, to stomach-turning effect. The only splashes of color come in the form of gemstones, rubies and sapphires, onyx and emeralds, the most eye-catching of which is set in a particular golden relief depicting a rather singular interpretation of the rise of the Titans. So that's my first paragraph. Like I said, pretty wordy. I really do not love this opening line especially, and I think when I did attempt my second draft that changed completely, but the scene mostly stays the same. We are in this antechamber, this waiting room, and we are with Lima, and based on the surroundings, you may be able to tell that it is in the realm of the Titan of Gold. Lima feels almost dizzy taking it all in, and she wonders if that sensation is the intent of leaving her here while she waits to be granted an audience. That sentence is really clunky. She draws herself up at the thought. Expect intimidation, she'd been told repeatedly. Expect it. Rise to it. Meet it. Exceed it. Elsewhere in the room, a cough echoes loudly off the garish walls, drawing Lima's attention. It's only Quinn, her personal guard, looking a little grumpy to have drawn any attention to himself at all. He meets Lima's eye and dips his head slightly in embarrassed acknowledgement. Across from him, his sister Kana fidgets with nervous energy. Lima has never known her to be this quiet for this long, but she assumes the gravity of the situation has stilled what is typically an overactive tongue. Again, we're moving through these descriptions really fast. Description is my biggest downfall. I'm not very good at it, and especially back then when I wasn't really paying that much attention. You'll notice I don't actually describe the physical characteristics of either of those two characters, despite the fact that they are very important and they are with the main character throughout the entire process. They're her personal bodyguards. Anyway, so it's just funny that we get a little bit of their personality. Quinn is stoic and grumpy, and his sister is high energy. But we know nothing about what they look like or anything, despite the fact that they are prominent characters. And we move through these paragraphs introducing them really, really quickly. And I feel like that's something I've gotten better at in the last 6 years, but as if sensing Lima's thoughts, the girl breaks the heavy silence with a snap. How much longer are you going to make us wait? Her words are directed at the only other person in the room, a palace guard dressed in armor as ostentatious as the room around them. For his part, he doesn't respond, not even with the slightest flinch, though Lima perceives, or perhaps imagines, a smirk tugging at his lips. Lots of commas in that sentence. Echoing Kana's sentiments, if not her methods, Lima abandons her post by the door to the throne room and takes a turn about the antechamber, her mind methodically reviewing her impending task, begging for mercy, peace. It's a concept that seems a mystery to the only one who can grant it. Lima finds no solace in revisiting these thoughts. It's a well-worn topic that will yield no answers, even if put to the man himself. She can only pray she's done enough to prepare a convincing argument. I forgot that I named the Titan of Gold. All of the Titans have really bad names. I'm really bad at naming things. But I forgot that I named the Titan of Gold in this version literally the Gold Man. And to be fair, the stone person is the Lady of Stone. So it's not like any of them are super creative, but the Gold Man, Carrie-Anne, really? The man earlier in that sentence was capitalized. A clamor in the next room draws the most affixed attention of all present. The most affixed. Not just affixed, the most affixed. Kana is very nearly vibrating with anticipation, and even the typically stoic Quinn shifts his weight, the steel of his blade rattling in its hilt with each movement. Lima, however, stills to a good imitation of a statue. He will be smug, her mother's voice echoes in her mind. He will give you not the smallest regard. He cares not a whit for your troubles, or my troubles, or any of our troubles. He will deny you. He will deny you. But I must still try, Lima had responded, and so she shall. The enormous golden doors groan as an individual on the other side begins the laborious process of opening them. Counter to her external veneer, Lima's heart quickens until it is an almost painful tattoo in her chest. At length, a wide enough crack for a person to fit through is made, and so appears another attendant. Lowly might he be in his master's eyes, his tunic is still stitched in gold thread, making him as much an affront to the eyes as the rest of the place. This is funny. So I've changed the words from the Gold Man to the second version of his title, which was the Gilded One in the second draft. Oh no, I remember now. His name is the Gold Man, but his servants call him the Gilded One because he insists on having a higher title. I remember now. And then in the subsequent draft, I just made that his title. That's what he was called instead of the Gold Man because that's stupid. Anyway, the Gilded One will see you now, he says with an air of great importance. Lima, for all her nerves, does not hesitate. She strides with purpose towards the doors, Kana and Quinn falling into their places behind her. None of them make it far, as the attendant interrupts them with the most condescending noise. Only the emissary is permitted within the Golden Promenade. An objection not only anticipated, but rehearsed for and easily parried. My maid will remain, Lima concedes, yet it cannot be reasonably expected that I shall walk into the seat of power of a hostile foreign entity without so much as a single guard. I liked that line. It cannot be reasonably expected that I shall walk into the seat of power of a hostile foreign entity without so much as a single guard. I kept that in the second draft. The attendant makes a show of considering it, but the conclusion is foregone. So it was last year and all the years that came before it. Very well, he replies at last. Your man may attend you. Come, the Gilded One will not be kept waiting for long. So I really am not like a huge fan. This opening sequence, I intended to set the stage before she walks in to this room and confronts this hostile god, essentially, or head of state at the very least, and asks for peace. But there's really not, if I'm going to do it this way, there just needs to be more tension. There just doesn't feel like enough tension, and there's definitely not enough setting of the scene, I feel like. I have long held on to some writing advice that I will talk about in a video someday. And the crux of it is that you hold on to details until they become necessary. You like keep secrets from the reader. And unfortunately, early in my writing process, I took that way too much to heart. And I didn't talk about things until it was the exact moment of the reveal, to the detriment of a lot of times, the story, because I'm not giving the reader enough to latch onto. And I think you can see this in this draft. I know everything that's about to come, but I can see like how this would be really, really obtuse and confusing, and there's not enough detail. Like if I had not explained to you the plot before I got started, if you are a kind of person who like doesn't read the back copy of a book, none of this makes any sense. Like there is no explanation for any of like why she's here, what she's being expected to do, why is this place covered in gold. It's not a great scene setting moment, especially for the first page and the first scene and the first moment. And it also like pings on my penchant, which is still true, that my inciting incidents are usually right away. I do not lollygag. I have heard Brandon Sanderson talk about how like he knows when he starts out on a draft that he's going to cut at least the first 5 chapters. And I have always kind of found it a point of pride that I know that that's not the case, because I'm starting it in the moment. I am right on top of the inciting incident. The only problem with that is it doesn't really give you a lot of time to understand the world or understand the characters or any of that. So something I've been working on is being a little bit more deliberate with the description and with setting the tone and setting the scene and explaining what the hell is going on. I did do a scene break there, which is silly because it goes right into the very next moment. The so-called Golden Promenade is not so different from the stone throne. It is a massive hall that stands mostly empty. Its ceiling does not appear below 50 feet, a necessity to house the great being within. This particular rendition is, true to form, bedeckled in all manner of gold adornments, though, blessedly, not to the degree as the chamber before it. Lima had thought this would be the moment at which she would be at her most nervous. That's very clunky. Yet now that the wait has finally concluded, she finds herself remarkably composed. The only action she must school herself against taking is lifting her eyes to behold the specter of the gold man in his entirety. She is acutely aware, however, that his attention is invariably fixed on her, just watching for such a mistake. She will not give him the satisfaction. It takes a dreadfully long time to traverse the whole of the hall, lengthened, no doubt, by the magnitude of the circumstances. As she draws ever nearer to the head of the room where the Gilded One's legs stand rooted in the ground, her eyes begin searching for her counterpart, the emissary of gold. Eventually, she thinks she spots him, a young man standing in a darkened corner of the hall, watching her slow progress towards his master. See, I changed it again to Gilded One. Anyway, whatever. At long last, the attendant stops, gives a flourishing bow, and announces, "O Gilded One, before you is the emissary of stone, name of Lima, come to plead for peace and to throw herself at your mercy." Lima would be annoyed by the belittling choice of words if they weren't necessarily true. Instead of betraying such a thought, she instead offers a bow, instead twice, albeit one much less deferential than its predecessor. She then returns to her full height and waits to be addressed. The silence after her introduction lingers, lengthens, and stretches well past the point of decorum. Lima doesn't rise to the bait. It's another of the gold man's traps, she'd been warned. Wait long enough to tempt the visiting emissary into speaking first, then throw them out for disrespect. Her mother once stood in total silence for a full quarter hour while the Titan tested her. Lima is far from afraid of this little game, and to prove it, she lifts her chin in a show of defiance, careful, though, not to raise her eyes to the face of the god. The so-called Gilded One lets the tension thicken a bit longer. Eventually, his voice booms throughout the cavernous hall, though it does not address her directly. Tell me, my eyes, who is it that comes so boldly before me? A question already answered if he'd but listened to his own herald. If he'd but listened to his own heralds, who has long shuffled away, announcement. That's clunky. I should have just left it at herald. Meanwhile, the young man Lima noticed before steps forward, out of the shadow of his patron, and Lima is afforded her first real look at him. He is only a few older than she perceives, and his face is boyish and handsome, though disrupted by that patented smirk that seems... What? Patented? What is a patent in this world? Patented smirk that seems to come with working for the gold man. When he speaks, his voice is rich and engaging. It is Lima of the Stone, Gilded One, the new emissary of your enemy, come to negotiate for peace. He throws a glance to Lima at this, as if confirming that that is, in fact, the reason for her visit. A curious motion that Lima ignores, keeping her... This is weird. A curious motion that Lima ignores, keeping her focus slowly on the Titan before her, who has let loose a mocking, echoing laugh. She ought not have wasted my time, he announces, again to his emissary. My eyes, what do you think of her? She is young, the man replies, his eyes fully engaged with Lima while he speaks. Full young to hold the post, but the Stone Lady's choice of representatives has always been queer. It takes every second of Lima's extensive training to hold every inch of herself still at the comment. I used the same device twice again. Inside, she's roiling, but she needn't see the young man's stare to know she is being watched, being judged. She cannot give them an iota of ammunition. Send her away, the gold man is presently commanding. Tell the Stone One to send back someone who has left the cradle. It will be my pleasure, Gilded One, the emissary says with a slight bow. However, we have agreed to hear her request. We only have opportunity for this kind of amusement once a year. Let us entertain ourselves with her pleas before sending her back to her mistress. Very well, my eyes, but she better be quick about it. I'm in no humor to suffer the stone fools today. At that, the emissary turns to Lima and gives her the same short bow, gesturing for her to speak. Finally. The Gilded One is most gracious, she begins, her tone honeyed but firm, for allowing us to come before you today. She pauses here to place her hand over her heart and bow once more. Her platitudes do not garner any response, which is just as well to her. She has much to say and does not know how long the gold man will entertain her. Long have our nations been at war, and long has it been my mistress's desire to see the conflict end. Yet, despite ceasing hostilities on our part, she is continually baffled by the Gilded One's refusal to do the same. Though we pose no threat militarily or economically to our once cherished neighbor, you have continued to send troops into our lands to steal our goods, ruin our crops, and murder our citizens. A necessary pause is taken to catch her breath. Her voice has steadily been raising, a carefully crafted piece of theater. Now, she must start pacing, an expression of her most fervent desire to see these talks succeed. O Gilded One, my lady professes she knows not what caused a breach so severe that you can be so adamant it cannot be healed. Clunky. For a century, she has found herself at a loss as to what slight she could have possibly given to justify war. She begs you give her to understand at least the nature of our differences, so that she can better offer that which may bridge this divide. Most of that is good. I feel like this is like very true to like what an emissary like begging for peace would sound like, especially on behalf of like the weaker nation. So there is some good stuff in here. It's not all bad, just mostly. Here, Lima falls to her knees and for the first time raises her face to gaze in full at the being towering over her. a show of submission. Gilded One, I confess, I have a much more personal reason for begging your mercy today. Last year, my mistress's previous emissary came to your glorious city on a mission of diplomacy. As you know, your soldiers mistook her for a dissident and tried to detain her. When her own personal guards attempted to step in, a scuffle broke out, and in the fray, the emissary was injured quite severely. That woman is my mother. That feels really, really long. Like, that is definitely for the reader's benefit and not for anyone present. That could probably be condensed. That would probably be condensed in a revision. She lets the words hang in the air. Out of the corner of her vision, she can see the gold man's emissary start in surprise. She is completely blind now. Her body is failing in ways we cannot fathom. We still do not know what weapon was used against her that would cause her condition. You insisted that you would never intentionally harm an emissary, that her being targeted was an innocent mistake. But Gilded One, I beg you, why should we believe that when you continue to insist on maintaining such a hostile relationship? How can we not consider an escalation of our own when the Titan's most sacred law is violated? Gilded One, please, my mother was a powerful, vibrant woman. You met with her on numerous occasions to discuss peace, like you are with me today. You know how beloved she was by my mistress, as she was by the whole of our nation. It is in your sole power to see to it that no one else comes to harm. I implore, plead, beg you to see reason and end this conflict today. Thank you. I did another scene break here, which is silly. But yeah, again, this is like a way to explain the background of the plot, or like the history to the reader. It's just really bald on its face, like, of what it's doing. If I were revising this, I would figure out a way to deliver all this information before she entered this room, so that way it's not like we're not, as you know, bobbing as much. The silence after this long speech hangs much heavier than the one that preceded it, and Lima's heart is beating that same tattoo it made earlier. Ooh. She keeps her face upturned, though the Gilded One's own is so far above her that she can barely discern an expression, if it is making one at all. Behind her, she can sense Quinn's tension mirroring her own. Did anyone else forget that he was there? Because I haven't mentioned him. In front and off to the left is the gold man's emissary, not daring to make an indication of his feeling while his patron has not yet done so. Like, why are we describing where he's standing? He's been here the whole time. A minute goes by, then two. Lima wonders if this is another game, though not one she can comprehend, or if the Titan is actually considering her proposal. A tiny bubble of hope swells in her breast, though she wishes it hadn't. The only gift hope has ever given her is a healthy pessimism. That's a good line. At long last, the gold man's voice rumbles to life once more, offering only two words. Request denied. Lima's heart feels like it sinks into her knees, still digging into the gold-encrusted floor from her prostrated position. The bubble in her chest has burst, flooding her with a cold, irrational impulse. May I ask why, Gilded One? She asks, her voice embarrassingly loud and high-pitched. No, comes the response. Send her away, my eyes. Yes, master. The emissary lifts his hand, gesturing toward the door from whence she entered. It takes a mighty effort, it seems, to pull herself back to her feet, though she manages the feat, F-E-A-T, without a stumble or a struggle. She turns on her heel without speaking, and for whatever reason, the sight of Quinn's face breaks her heart. To a stranger, it would be as stony as ever, but she can perceive his disappointment. His is but the first of many she will suffer, she knows. Together they make the long walk to the end of the hall, where the attendant is waiting to usher them out the heavy doors back into the antechamber. There, Kana awaits, and her face falls from the mere sight of Lima's and her brother. I don't like that. As the door slams shut behind them, she whispers, "What happened?" Quinn looks at Lima to make explanations, but when she does not, he volunteers what always happens. The emissary made her case, the strongest case yet, I think, and still the golden git denied her. Quinn, Lima says sharply, her eyes on the guard who had remained with Kana. Worse has been said of my master within these walls, I assure you. Lima turns toward the sound of the new voice, surprised it had not emanated from the man whom she had her gaze affixed. That's Awkward. To her surprise, it is the emissary, and how he had entered the room so quickly and quietly is even more a mystery. Her confusion must be showing on her face, because the man's next action is to offer a smile and nudge open a hidden door in the wall. "We do not wish to speak ill of our host," Lima says graciously. "You must forgive my colleague's comment. Understand, his disappointment has affected his tongue." He bows at that. "I am only taken aback at how it has not affected yours, Lady Emissary." He steps forward then, extending a hand. "I am Ilden." Lima cautiously accepts his hand, gripping it briefly in greeting. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Ilden. I look forward to working with you." She hesitates a moment, a question hovering at the point of being asked. "Tell me, how many years have you served as emissary?" "This is my third," is the reply, accompanied by a curious, apologetic expression. "Yes," he adds, "I knew your mother." "No," Lima does not hesitate to correct. "Your men have not yet succeeded in putting her in the grave." Ilden looks appropriately shamed at that, and for the first time, Lima feels the flush of victory. She's lashing out impolitically, but after the blow she's just suffered, she's ill-disposed to care. "I know you've no reason to take honesty from my words," he concedes, "but I offer my sincerest promise that, to my knowledge, it truly was an accident." "Forgive my skepticism of your knowledge, if not your sincerity," Lima counters. "She was traveling with armed, liveried guards. How any trained soldier worth his pay could mistake her for a common rabble-rouser begs incredulity." To this, Ilden has no answer, and Lima feels satisfied to leave it at that. "It is clearly of no matter to your master," she says at length. "He is content to take advantage of my lady's peaceful nature, no matter the cost of inhuman suffering. The luxury of a Titan, I suppose." "I don't disagree with your assessment," Ilden replies, "though I do hope that you and I can have at least a cordial relationship going forward, if possible." Lima offers a cold smile. "Lord Emissary, you know that not only is it possible, it is mandated. We are all bound by the same laws, are we not?" "We are," Ilden says, frowning. "Forgive me. I fear I am not expressing myself as well as you are clearly capable." "Do not give yourself cause to fret," Lima replies, "for we shall not intrude upon your hospitality any longer. My companions and I have a long journey home ahead, and we do not wish to delay it any further." "It's already past midday," Ilden says with haste, "and the road to your capital is above 300 miles. As I understand it, you only arrived in our fair city just this morning. Are you certain you would not wish to rest in your horses and your men before returning to the road so quickly?" "As you know, Bob." Lima almost laughs at the notion, but she manages to check herself. "You suggest we spend the night in the seat of power of a Titan that wages war against us? Who has arrested my people visiting his lands on charges of fomenting unrest, founded or not? Who is, directly or indirectly, responsible for my mother being too ill to leave her home?" She shakes her head at the audacity. "No. No, Lord Emissary. Our horses will be refreshed at the stables, and even that is moments too long to spend in this city. Until next time, Ilden." And that is the end of chapter 1. Again, it is excessively long. I definitely would have broken it up into at least 2. I would have made that opening snapshot a little bit longer to appropriately set the stage. Like the plea for peace, I think is decent and kind of like gives you an idea of like what this girl is up against. We still really do not have a concept of the larger world or what these emissaries do. So like in that regard, it's a little bare and could use some work for sure. Like I said, I probably would have split it up into 2, making the opening snapshot scene, even I put a scene break in, but it makes no sense, but making that opening snapshot a little bit longer. And then when the Titan like says no to her, making that the end of the chapter, and then going into this, and then making her interaction with the emissary Ilden longer, because he is also a very, very prominent character. He's the love interest. Anyway, that is the first chapter of, I never had an actual title, but the codename was Border Towns, a secondary world fantasy with a strong romantic subplot and kind of this central theme of, does going to war ever save lives kind of thing. That is the central question that the main character is being asked to answer. And she is a girl who may be 20 and is being thrust into this position basically as the head of state, like the main representative of a head of state that cannot move. There it is, the first chapter of my first ever completed first draft. Let me know what you think. This project has been in the trunk for the last 6 years, but it is not permanently buried. I could see a version of my future where I return to this idea. There's a lot of like good ideas, I think, in this, especially again, that central question and exploring that idea. My problem was at the time, I had a really hard time thinking about the context of a larger world and the larger like plot and the larger like character interactions and like things that basically, if it did not exist to serve the main, if it does not serve the main plot, if it did not actively contribute to the main plot, to me, it didn't exist. It didn't matter. It wasn't important. I did not need to put it on the page. And I knew that that was a problem with my descriptions. But as I have developed as a writer over the last 6 years, I've also realized that it's a problem like in general. Like I do need other like elements of story to go in there. You know, it matters who the supporting characters are, and it matters like, you know, anyway, it just like all of this matters. At the time, I really did not think about that. To me, like this chapter was about like establishing the conflict and the main two characters. And thinking about the world outside of it, again, it didn't really matter to me because I knew it, you know, anyway. So I've definitely grown as a writer, and I could definitely see myself coming back to this and revamping like the whole governmental system, because like when you really think about it. But anyway, that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me like anything gold, any emoji that's like gold, especially if it's like jewelry or like anything super gaudy, to call back to that first really bad line. Or you could share with me the first line of your first draft that you ever wrote. I'd love to hear those too. In my next video, I will have a writing vlog for you in which we ask the question, is it ever a good idea to do mid-draft revisions? I hope you look forward to it, and I'll see you then. Bye.